Adam El-Agez, welcome to Business in Between.
Great to be here.
We're very excited to have you here. We sent out a message on our social channels last week asking for New Zealand's best untold business stories. And we were pretty overwhelmed with the responses, but yours caught our eye. And I'm so stoked we get the chance to tell your story for the first time.
Yeah, first time telling it publicly.
So, It has all the traits of a goodie, the failure, the resilience, the belief, the blow up and the reflections. And on that, I wanted to zoom out really and talk about the present, because quite recently you've stepped back from the business you've built. And from what I understand, having a bit of you time. So is this a good time to reflect?
Oh, definitely. I've been doing plenty of that. There's so much to reflect on. So just sort of, doing it in bits and pieces. And it's been weird. But it's been good. It's nice just to be able to focus on a bit of lifestyle rather than, get up in the morning and just straight into work.
And very specifically, so you're Tauranga based, you've driven over the Kaiwais to Hamilton today. Yep. What's been going through your mind as you've been heading here?
It's been quite the journey actually, not just on the road, but in my head, just going through, the whole sequence of events and what's played out and, just remembering stuff as well, stuff that I hadn't really thought of for a while. So it's all kind of come back up to the surface and it's been cool. Yeah, I wish the drive was longer actually.
So in prep for the set, I asked you for some info on your story and you sent through, I think, 8 helpful bits, which we're going to work through throughout the episode. Yep. So I should say helpful bits for entrepreneurs. And I wanted to start with number 4. And, we're kind of got to dive straight into it. But number 4 is you don't deserve to be successful. You're not special. Make shit happen yourself. Don't wait for it to happen because of some belief that it's your destiny. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
Yeah, well, pretty much exactly that. I think it's pretty easy to get into the trap that people, maybe think a bit too highly of themselves, that they think that they deserve to be successful just based on, who they are and maybe what they've done in the past. And I just don't believe in that. I don't really believe in sort of destiny and things like that. I think you just go out and you make the life you want rather than it just sort of falls into place. And that kind of rolls around to, what you do with your day to day. But I think more importantly, like actually where you point yourself. And most people, if they point themselves in the right direction, will probably end up getting there. And that's not because they're special. That's just because they pointed themselves in the right direction and they work towards getting there.
These reflections you've sent through and how you've spoken then, is that the culmination of, 20 years in your business journey? Have these become crystallized more recently or have you always had this sort of wisdom?
I think I've always thought like that. 20 years of business, most of which was either poor or mediocre. But you build a resilience to it. You start to not feel like you are very special. So, I think it's a combination of experiencing it and then popping out the other side and reflecting on it, that you've kind of, formulated that sort of the thing. And I think it's also a hopeful message to people is that you don't need to be special. You don't need to, you don't even really need to be educated. You just need to be actually focusing on the right things, and heading where you want to go rather than kind of where you don't want to go.
One of the things that's really interesting in the research for this is that there's kind of common themes in terms of language that have come through. One was resilience, another one high trust. It's interesting that these are already coming through just in these opening exchanges.
Yeah.
Like that rhetoric, I guess, is something that you just live.
Yeah. So resilience for sure. I didn't really realize that as I was going through it, but I think looking back on it, high trust, definitely my business partner and I just have the most insanely high trust relationship ever. And I would also sort of add on to that sort of just a bit of a conviction that if you just keep going, you'll get where you want to go. You've just got to keep going.
It's such a good tease, by the way, this little intro.
We're going to get to these nuggets at the end, but we've got a hell of a story to tell first. So I want to go back to the start. Grew up in the Naki. Dad was a doctor, mum was a nurse. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the time we talk to these successful entrepreneurs and they have influence from their parents who are business owners. But that wasn't the case for you, right?
Oh, complete opposite. My dad especially wanted me to grow up and get a safe, secure job. He'd be gutted that I'm not a doctor or accountant or a lawyer. And I was pretty useless at school. C's, get degrees at uni. studied PE, and that's when I started showing interest in being an entrepreneur. And I think it was quite distressing for my parents to see, my journey with in and out of businesses, and them not really knowing much about it, because I think if they knew too much, they'd actually freak out about what was going on. And they didn't actually realise the extent of the success of the Conqueror for quite a while as well, for probably 2 years after it became quite successul. And it's only really been recently, probably even in the last year, that they've learnt.
Maybe only when they listen to this.
Shit.
Yeah.
Did you know what Adam's done?
When I bought my dad a $200,000 camper van, he was like, fuck, what's going on here? And it's funny because now my mum is actually a Conqueror as well. So she takes on the challenges, and she's stoked to receive the medals, and she gets to have the founder put the medal over her neck as well.
Amazing.
So she's pretty stoked. It's pretty cool that, someone like my mum, which is kind of, pretty perfect audience for our product. Someone who just wants to keep moving for health reasons is a user of the app as well. So that's pretty cool.
Just looping back, so you started down the path of, I guess, what you'd call a stable traditional career, right, as a teacher?
Yeah, so I went to uni, did PE at Otago, then came up to the Bay, did Teachers College for a year. And then I got a job teaching at Katikati College, teaching PE and health, and some science, bizarrely. And I enjoyed teaching. Like, I really love the kids. It's so much fun. Teaching PE is awesome because all your naughty kids are your good kids in PE. There's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of meetings, and, there's a lot of crap that goes on with teaching, and teachers just do unbelievable amount of workload. But I started, in my second year, I started my first company, and it was a little fundraising supply company, just these little scratchy cards that people would buy and use to fundraise. And I started that, and I was doing that kind of when I got home from school, and then my phone was ringing all the time at school, and I was, at lunchtime and at intervals, I was just basically working the business. I'd get home, then I'd work 4 hours, and then I was like, kind of have to give this teaching up to get into this business. So I left teaching after 3 years, and just pursued a whole bunch of different businesses along the way. So I think I've had something like 11 different businesses. Probably, I think even more than that if you count the little side hustles that you do for like 2 weeks.
Can I just jump in? And this, like, scratchy fundraisers is such an interesting place to start. Like, where did that idea pop into your head?
So as I was teaching, I was also coaching. I was coaching volleyball team, and my volleyball team needed to fundraise. And I was looking around at all the fundraising products online and going, those are shit. And I found these scratchy cards, but they were in America. And I thought, these things look really good. They basically scratchy cards that you take around and you give to your friends, and they scratch off a circle, and underneath the circle is an amount printed like 50 cents, $1, $2, $3. And, if I give it to you and you scratch off $2, then you give me $2 as a donation.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a reverse instant Kiwi.
That's awesome.
you lose, but it caps the amount that you're actually donating to the person at a small amount. And if you want to give more, then you can just keep scratching, so grandma can scratch away and give you $20. And so I wanted to do this for my volleyball team, but I couldn't get them from America. So I looked around in New Zealand, couldn't find them in New Zealand. So I was like, I'll just make them myself, just cardboard and scratchy. So I went to, design them up, and I could, I've learned how to build websites and stuff. So I put a website together. Then I went to order some from the printer, and they'd only let me order 2,000 as a minimum, and I needed 20. So I was like, shit. I was like, fuck, I'll be able to get these I'll be able to sell them to someone else. So I ordered 2,000. My team used them. They did really well out of them, like amazing. And I was like, this is awesome, great product. So I put the website together and launched it, and then just sold them from there, and then just keep selling them. And heaps of schools and sports teams mostly use them, and it was a good little cash earner.
This way of thinking, started coming up with an idea and following through on it. Did you pick that up from anywhere? Were you listening to podcasts or reading, or did you have friends that were in this
around back
space?
then, were they?
Yeah, Between Two Bears was so influential, I think I got into the idea of business in my last year of uni, and my brother actually gave me the Robert Kiyosaki books, Cash Flow Quadrant and Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I also happened to go overseas to Finland on a student exchange my last year. So I was over in Finland, which is just such a step outside of your comfort zone. Amazing experience, probably one of the best years of my life. But I was also on this kind of starting this business, kind of exploring money and, how to invest and stuff like that. So that kind of, mindset came from that year in Finland. And then I came back, did that year of uni training at teacher's training. And then I actually got into real estate investing as my first thing. And I bought my first house before I even got my first paycheck, which was bizarre as well. So it's been quite a organic, long process to get into business and investing. So it started with real estate. And then once you know real estate pretty well, then business is just a flow on from that.
Is that property text? Is that where you kind of got into as well?
So after real estate, because I was buying houses, I found a need for a text message service for property, and so we created this app called Property Text, which was before its time. It was actually really terrible timing. It was at that phase where texting was just something that kids did. Your parents had phones, but texting was just a stupid thing that kids did. It was starting to become a thing that adults did. And it was also a roasting market. So real estate agents didn't actually need to try and attract buyers because they just needed to get listings. When a roasting market is, the houses just sell themselves. So it was a terrible, it was a good idea at a terrible time. Yeah.
I want to link us up to my virtual mission, but to get there, I want to go through some of these businesses. So I've got Fast Fundraising New Zealand 7 years, Aqua Plus 5 years, Property Text 2 years, Student Refunds 1 month.
Yeah, that was crazy. Wow.
But the question is, across this decade or however long that was, what did you actually learn? Looking back now, because we're about to tell the story of how you built this incredible thing, but what did you learn from, would you consider them failures? Were there lessons there?
I don't think you can really consider anything a failure if you learn from it, right? And there were definitely lots of learnings. I learned a lot of hard skills. So I learned how to build websites. I learned my way around ad platforms like Google Ads, just doing it all myself, being familiar with it. Even things like, with Aqua Plus, it was heavy logistics operations. So I learned how to, get bottles of water all around New Zealand and import stuff and just that whole supply chain sort of management side of things as well. So every business had its own sort of unique set of hard skills and experiences. But also then you're building up the mental kind of capacity for just spotting ideas and opportunities and just taking action rather than just sitting around thinking about things and whether you should do them or not. I think when you're young and you don't have kids and you don't have a mortgage, you can just swing the bat so hard, and who cares? You just eat baked beans for a month if it doesn't work out, because there's no consequences. So I think when you're young, you got to take lots more risks.
Well, do you remember the point at which you thought, I'm out of teaching now, I'm going to go all in on business?
Yep.
What was that?
I think it was because I was just getting too busy. My fundraising company and also I'd started Property Text at the time was just starting to take up too much time. It was becoming exhausting, and I was also becoming a shit teacher because of it. Sorry, guys.
But was there fear or trepidation of leaving that solid paycheck?
A little bit, but not really. It was more excitement and more of an opportunity to do what I wanted to do. It's not that solid
of a paycheck either.
It's not that solid of a paycheck. I really did enjoy teaching though. So it was definitely, I was going to go from being in front of a lot of people at a school with cool kids and, good colleagues to, working in a room in a house with no one and working in my slippers, So that wasn't that cool. That was a bit of a, it was quite lonely and I missed the people side of things. But it was also quite an exciting time because, I got to work on it full time, and that's what I think we all want to do, like you guys the same, wanting to just get stuck into it and not have other things get in your way.
Take us to the genesis of my virtual mission. How did this idea come about?
Yeah. So the idea, how the idea came about. So me and my wife, we bought a treadmill. It was actually her idea to stick a map of New Zealand on the wall, and every time she went for a walk, she would, the old school maps, they have distance markers between each location, and so she would just mark on the map how far she thought she'd she'd gone. So she went for a 5K walk, she'd mark it on the map. And she ended up walking the length of the North Island, I think, at least. And I started doing it as well. And I was like, oh yeah, this is okay, but I'm just not really into like recording it with a pen and paper and a notebook and all this sort of stuff. So I was like, there must be an app for this somewhere. So I went looking online and I found a bunch of people who were doing the same sort of thing, with their treadmills and maps and stuff. And then I saw McDonald's had done a tech version of it, slightly sort of different, but same sort of concept. But I couldn't really find anything that I could use. And so foolishly I thought, I'll build it myself. Looks pretty easy. And so, yeah, that's what I did. I toddled off down to the local web development company in Tauranga, and they spec'd up the job, and I just kind of went ahead with it and built it from there.
It sounds like such a number 8 wire Kiwi mentality, but timestamp it for us in terms of technology. Where were apps? Where were we at that stage?
So that was 2012. So the iPhone came out in 2008, I think. So we were pretty new, but the App Store was there. Apps were like, ridiculously cheap. You remember the days you could buy an app for like 99 cents? Now they probably want $12 a month for the same thing, So it was it was fast growing. There was a lot of hype around apps. So it was an interesting time. There's actually a lot of tech companies who were founded around that time, 2012, 2013. Whenever I read stuff about tech companies, it's really interesting. It's usually often it's around that era. So I think there's a lot of just Joe Blows like me, just coming up with ideas for an app and then wanting to do it. And I think development was a lot cheaper back then as well. Development is just so expensive now, and you need so many people, and it's just a huge industry. It's just grown so much.
Was it as easy as just having an idea for an app?
So a lot of people always talk about the idea, like they focus on the idea, and do you need an idea? And you need an idea. And I always think the idea is actually less important than most people think. The most important thing is how you execute it. Like searching the internet is not really a great idea, is it? But Google did all right out of it. People connecting with other people on the internet, it's not rocket science, and Facebook's done pretty well. So the idea, I think, is less important than how you turn that idea into an experience. And the other thing with ideas, because I get a lot of people coming and asking me for maybe their feedback on their idea, and I've got an idea for an app. I've got an idea for an app is like such a common thing I hear from people, and I love talking to people about it. But they'll come in and say they've got a fucking, I don't know, like a cat dating app or something, right? And they think they're in the pet niche, or the dating niche. It's like, no, you're a tech company, you've got to be you're a tech company, and I don't care if it's cats or financial services, it's tech that you're doing, and I think that is it's a pretty hefty arena to play in with tech. It's specialized and it's expensive, and you kind of need to know what you're doing, which I didn't.
So you've got an idea and you're going for it. And what's the timeline here with My Virtual Mission and the medals? Because the medals are such a huge part of this, right? Like, where did that come from?
So My Virtual Mission launched, and it was where you could, so when I launched My Virtual Mission, the first thing that happened is I got a cease and desist from Under Armour.
Oh, really?
Shit, because I called it Map My Mission to begin with. And there was a suite of apps called Map My Run, Map My Walk, Map My Ride. And during the construction of My Virtual Mission, or Map My Mission at the time, Under Armour had bought all of those apps. And then when I launched as Map My Mission, they just were like, no, it's too close to our
How quickly was that in from them?
Oh, it was like 3 weeks after I launched.
Wow.
Yeah. So the first thing I had to do pretty much after launching was do a full rebrand. It's not what you want to spend your money on, or face a cease and desist and a legal challenge from Under Armour. So I did the rebrand, which sucked. And then, so My Virtual Mission was a platform where you could create your own pathway on a map. So you could do it anywhere. So some people, wanted to do around their hometown or whatever, but it meant that the user had to create the pathway, which was a bit clunky. You had to click points on the map and join it up to create the pathway. And it was a pretty clunky experience. And then people just weren't really using the app, and I just couldn't get anyone to get into it. So, I was trying to work out ways I should, how I could grow this, and I was still focusing on it being My Virtual Mission, where people create a custom pathway. And then, I had this group come in. This lady contacted me and said she wanted to do it for her work her workplace, do a challenge for her workplace. And I was like, oh yeah. So I got on the call, which she wanted to have a call, and I was like, we're a fitness app, we don't do calls, you know. So I had a call with her, and she was mentioning this thing called corporate wellness, and I'd never heard of corporate wellness, you know, and it's a huge, huge industry in the States, and it's where companies, you know, do all these corporate, these wellness initiatives for their staff, fitness activities, health, mental health stuff.
Are we talking like step challenges and all that sort of stuff?
Step challenges.
Right. This
is back in, 2014, 15, so that sort of stuff is in New Zealand now, but at the time there was not really anything like that happening in workplaces. So I kind of learned about this whole industry called corporate wellness, and and they did a challenge, and they did it really well, and they succeeded pretty well with it. I was like, this looks pretty good, pretty promising. So I went looking for, how to get into corporate wellness. And I did this Google search for, corporate wellness ideas, and I came across this blog, and it was like 135 corporate wellness ideas for your company. And I just, spur of the moment, pinged the guy, messaged the author on LinkedIn and said, hey man, this is what I've got. Would you feature it on your blog? And he replied, and he said, look, this is great. Send us the info, send us some pictures, and he put it up on his blog. So he put it up on his blog, and then the next morning I woke up and I just got all these inquiries from all these companies. Really hard work to deal with. I was making some revenue out of it, but I knew it was a good direction, and I started focusing on like corporate clients, and that kept a bit of revenue coming in, kept me alive. And then you're getting back to your question, Steve, how did it turn into the medals? It wasn't enough. The corporate wellness stuff wasn't enough for me to kind of, survive. It was just keeping the servers on, really. And then I was sitting around on Instagram one day, just probably wasting time, and I was looking at like people in the news feed, and I saw a lot of people were proudly showing off their race medals. So they'd done like a 5K or a marathon or whatever, and they were on Instagram showing themselves with their picture of their real shitty ass race medal. And I was like, man, these medals are so lame. You've just run a fucking marathon, and they've given you this crappy thing to represent it. I was like, that's terrible. I was like, well, maybe if we did really good medals, put something that people actually like, and put them at the end of like preset challenges. So see Route 66 or Length of New Zealand or, Inca Trail or something like that, and actually packaged it as kind of like a virtual race, even though it's not against anyone, that you do incrementally over time with every run that you do, and then at the end of it you get a medal. I thought, well, maybe that it could be a good kind of pivot to get people to sign up for this thing. So that's how the medals came about, and that was the birth of the Conqueror. So the Conqueror was a series of preset fitness challenges. So we've got about 100 in our portfolio, ranging from short ones to really long ones. People take anywhere from like a week to 2 years to complete their challenge. Along with the medals, we managed to put things in during the journey. If a person's say doing Route 66, it's like 2,000 miles or something. Every time they get to say a new city, they get a virtual postcard from that city, gives them information about that city, and we just sort of built out content from there around, making the experience a bit more immersive. Then we added some charity partners where every 20% of the pathway that you complete, we plant like a real tree in the on behalf of that person. Or we remove 10 plastic bottles from entering the ocean with our partner charities that do that sort of work. So just added motivation for people to keep going and help themselves with fitness, but also make a bit of a difference with trees and plastic. That was how the Conqueror sort of started. But when the Conqueror launched, it was also shit.
Is that you coming up with all those value adds?
Yep. I almost didn't launch with the postcards. It was a last minute thing. I was looking at the offering going, I need something else here. Like a person's going to start this and there's a big gap between when they start and when they finish. Like I need to fill it with something so that they stay engaged. And I came up with this idea for postcards. And it turns out to be it was a really good idea. It was just a random thought, really.
And where's your market for this stuff?
US, UK, Canada, Germany, because we have a German translation, and Australia. They're probably our biggest markets.
Because when you finish a marathon, all the medals are in one place that you get given at the end of that.
Yep.
So how are you getting these, which are, I've got they're quite clunky things. How are you getting them all over the place?
Well, yeah. So originally when, cause I was, the only one in the company, so I was doing everything, I would package them up. I'd pretty much just get an A4 piece of card and wrap them in that cardboard, and then I would put them in a DL envelope, and I'd shove them into the mail system in New Zealand, because I could send a medal to anywhere in the world for $2.20, because you could just buy like a postage stamp for anywhere in the world. You're not actually supposed to put physical products in envelopes and put them in the mail. But I was like, hopefully they were getting through. So I was like, sweet, let's keep this up, because $2.20, the next cheapest option was $20, and it just kills it at $20. You can't make a sale if the shipping's $20. And we were way too small for like a 3PL, like a pick, pack and dispatch place to bother with. But as we were growing, I was throwing more and more of these, envelopes with heavy metals into the postage system. And so at one point I was like, man, we have to actually drive around town and distribute these evenly into post boxes at mail centers, because the postie's going to turn up and he's going to get his bag of mail. It's going to be so heavy. It's going to go clunk, clunk, clunk. And he's going to be like, this is not good. And I'd get found out, and that would be the end of it. So we're doing that for a while. Sorry about that, New Zealand Post, but thanks also. Because that literally was the only way we could get medals to people. And I just had them in my garage. I was just packaging them up in my garage, so and sending them out. And then,
mate, this is so wild.
I begged like a distribution 3PL agent in the US to take me on as a customer. And he was like, man, we only really do, like you have to be doing like 100 a month, 100 units a month is like our minimum. And we wasn't really doing that. And I was like, it's all right, man. I promise, we're going to grow this thing. I was like, I was like real cheesy. I was like, one day we're going to be your biggest client.
and did you?
Yeah.
Did you become?
Yeah. And so, he took a chance on us, and that was wicked. So, managed to get them in the nick of time, because we were really growing quickly at that point, and managed to just get them in the nick of time and better packaging, and then to a US distribution center, and then they get sent around the world from there. And now we've got distribution centers in multiple countries, the US, UK, and the Netherlands.
Okay, before we get to the blow up and the good times, I actually want to talk about some of the hard times, if that's all right. Mm-hmm. I've taken this from a memo that you sent the company after you stepped down as CEO, and I want to read a paragraph, and it's, here I was in my late 30s, divorced, 2 kids, living on a friend's houseboat, and about to throw my last remaining funds into a business that had been failing for the last 5 years on a hunch that I was still onto something. So can you tell us, we've sort of, we're moving around into the medals and things, but like how hard was that period? And in the divorce, I know that it allowed you to sort of reinvest in the company, but talk us about your mindset through that period. Yeah,
everyone goes through tough times, and that was just an extremely tough time. It's anyone who's been through a divorce, it's, especially with kids, it's not great. And then, at a failing business on top of that, started to rustle my CV together to see if I could get a job somewhere. And you got your parents saying, get a job. It was a bit of a low. There's no doubt about that. But I just think I kept on coming back to the users that I did have were really getting a lot of benefit from it. And I could see that. We had a Facebook group of people who they'd just post lovely things on their Facebook in this group about how it's helping them and how it's helping them with their mental health. And I was getting people pinging me on Facebook or LinkedIn, and just telling me their story and about how the products really helped them. And, people literally saying that you've helped save their life, and it's pretty powerful. And I was like, man, I can't really just give up on this. The idea I think is good. It's helping people. It's definitely helping people. And I just had this belief that I wasn't far away from cracking it. I just needed to work out how to get customers and how to get enough customers just to keep going. So this group was super positive, and it kind of kept me positive about it as well, and enough for me to just to want to lock in. The other side of it is if you give up, you lock in your loss. Mm-hmm. And I had put in hundreds of thousands of dollars into this, and I was on my last few dollars. And if I gave up, there's the secondhand market for failed fitness apps. It's not very strong. You can't just go and sell it on, and someone's going to buy it off you. It's not like a trucking company. If you start a trucking company, you fail, you sell your trucks and you make your money back, or some of your money back. So it was a sort of I felt a bit trapped, but I also had some pretty strong belief that the product was good. and I just needed to find a way to get it in front of people.
I think this is a really good time to introduce Raoul, who we're going to speak about soon. But we reached out to him in prep for this and sort of asked him, what made you different as a leader? What made you good? What made you successful? And I want to read what he said. He said, if you think about what he went through, from coming up with the idea, starting the company back in 2013, through all the failure he had to deal with every single year, 2014, 2015, 2016, he runs out of money, even takes money from friends and family. He pivots the product, he pivots the company, he fails again, he loses everything. All that failure to keep your belief in your idea and grit your teeth and stay in the game for so long. It's just astonishing that he kept doing that for 6 years until we started collaborating. Like, I would have personally quit maybe a quarter of the way into that journey that he had. So he taught me this lesson that sometimes it's just enough to stay in the game, and at some point something's going to happen. Of course, your product needs to be good too, but that's where the belief part plays a big role. That's cool, and there's more to come from Raoul. But I guess this is maybe the time to talk about how it turned into the Conqueror and how you pulled yourself out of what we just spoke about.
Yeah, so it was definitely getting down to pretty empty barrel of money, and also just kind of getting sick of it as well. I'd just been through so many cycles of failures. I'd been through so many marketing agencies, because I knew it was marketing that was what I needed to turn this around. But I was getting these negative signals that it wasn't marketing, because I had so many marketing agencies have a go at it and fail. And with every marketing agency, they talk it up. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's going to be great, and your product's great, and it's going to sell, and prepare yourself for this massive influx of customers. And then that would it just wouldn't happen. The first day you'd look at it and go, oh yeah, no, we didn't do anything there. And then it was a week, and it's like, oh yeah, still going backwards. And then they're going, oh, we need more data. We need to spend more money on ads so we get more data so we can tweak it. You go through this cycle, and I'd been through that a couple of times, and it had been terrible, and just lost money, and then I just had to quit with them, and they're telling you, no, we just need to keep going, but I was just like, no, I have to pull the pin. And so I was on my kind of last roll of the dice, because I didn't have any more money, and I really did have to do something decisive, and I was like, well, I need to spend this money on actual ads themselves. I can't just go out and get another agency. And so I was like, I need to learn how to do ads. So I went to this group, and it was a group called Facebook Ad Buyers. And at the time it had 90,000 people in the group. So it was a big Facebook group, and I was just on there, and I was just reading posts. And then I saw this post from this guy called Raoul, and he was just posting some really cool content around Facebook ads. And I was like, oh, cool. I liked his post. And because the Facebook algorithm picked up that I liked his post, when Raoul posted again, a week later, it came up in my newsfeed, and then and I was like, shot man, on his post, and then I kept on seeing his content, and I was like, I'm going to hit this guy up, and I'm going to say, see if he'll teach me how to run his ads, run my ads. And so he was in the group. He was just new to the group, and he was looking to start his own Facebook ads agency. So he was looking to promote his skills, and then show off his skills, and then attract customers. That's why he was there. And so I had him up, and we had a call, and I told him about the product. And it's a fairly complex product to explain to someone, at medals, incremental journey, this sort of stuff. So,
I was wondering that, because I've been telling people you're coming on, and I'm like, oh, what does he do? Like,
I still can't tell people.
What is your elevator pitch?
Yeah.
Have you got it?
My worst case scenario is someone asking me what I do for a living. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, okay. So I don't have elevator pitch, and I'm not going to try and deliver one here. So, go to the website.
As you will.
But,
by the way, if you do go to the website, man, that thing follows you all around now. It's really, really effective.
There's no escaping.
No, it is all over my feed on every platform. Well done.
Just sign up. Hide the ads. If you don't. So
you were messaging a random dude.
I was messaging this random dude in Romania. And I wanted to learn off him how to run ads, but he wanted customers for his agency. So there was a bit of a mismatch there, and he didn't really understand the product. And then I sort of said to him, oh, well, maybe you could run the ads. And as soon as I said that, I was like, come on, man, this is exactly what you said you wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Like, you can't spend money on a retainer and paying some guy to run your ads again. Like, this is not good. And then, so I was having doubts, and then Raoul wanted to open book his, he wanted a client that was willing to open book their ad account, which is a pretty big deal for a client, because it means that everyone can see all your metrics, all what's going on, what you're spending, what your results are. If you were sensitive about that information, you probably wouldn't want, someone on Facebook just doing it live and open booking it to the world, essentially. So he was struggling to find people that willing to do that.
Why would he want to do that?
To show that he was legit and wasn't just fudging all his results.
Yeah.
So he'd do it live, because there's a lot of heroes in that industry who think that they're amazing and they can just Photoshop stuff and, make things look really good and, show good results. But so Raoul wanted to counter that. Show his real skills and just do it in a live environment with an open book, a real case study. No one wanted to do it, but I was like, I couldn't give a fuck if someone sees this. I've got nothing to hide. I've got nothing good in my ad account. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. And so, yeah, we had a bit of back and forth, and we both walked away saying, nah, it's not a good fit, because he didn't really understand the product either. And then we both came back and we said, look, let's just give it a go. Right, let's just see how things go. So paid him the retainer, and he did a couple of weeks' work to get things set up how we wanted them to be set up, get the ads set up and creatives and stuff like that. And then we went live, and I remember waking up in the morning and checking my phone, and I was like, oh man, we've made some sales today. That's awesome. We've definitely a bump in sales, and go and have a look at the Facebook ad account, and I'm like, oh, those results look really good, and then I was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And then just every day from there, it was just like ramping up. So his performance was just spectacular. And turns out he's one of the best digital marketers in the world.
That's such a great throwaway line from like.
I met a guy on the internet.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, just randomly bumped into him on the internet. So, so that was awesome.
So digging in on this time, because this is exhilarating, right? Like the business has taken a U-turn. You're all of a sudden seeing, holy shit, this thing's taken off.
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like? Do you have anyone to share that with other than Raoul? Like inside, are you starting to see what it's going to turn into?
Not really at the start. I was in denial for a long time. I didn't want to get too excited. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool, but it's got to last, and I don't want to get too excited. I also had to deal with the fallout, which was, more metals, more supply chain logistics, just everything was ramping up, and I was the only one dealing with it. So I was doing customer support. It's a huge increase in customer support inquiries. And so I was, hired a guy to help me with customer support, and then he hired a friend of his to help with customer support, and then we kind of blew up, and then they went from 2 people to 40 people like in a couple of weeks. And so our customer support just scaled massively, and everything's happened really, really quickly. So I don't actually have a lot of time to think or reflect or...
That's what I wanted to ask. What is your work-life balance? Like, are you just all in at this point, and is it stressful as well?
It's awesome.
It's awesome?
Yeah, that was awesome. Was it stressful? I don't remember feeling stressed. I remember feeling quite exhilarated and pumped. Like it's, 7 years of not things going very, very, very well at all, the odd win here and there, to just seeing it grow every single day. And he's like, I think we were doing like 5K a month to begin with. And then he's like, man, Adam, one day we're going to be, next month we're going to do 25 grand. I'm like, bro, you're crazy, you're crazy. And now we just do 200 grand a day. It's like, it's just so mental.
Have you met him in real life at this stage?
So we had one phone call and
a video call or a phone?
A video call.
Okay. So he's a real person.
Our first ever contact was a couple of messages over Facebook Messenger, and then a video call. And then we didn't have any calls or video calls for, I think, like well over a year. We were just all on Messenger. So our entire chat history of that day, of that era, is still recorded in our Messenger.
Have you ever looked back at it?
Little bits of it. Yeah.
So he told us about this period. He's like, so we started working in July, and the previous month he did 8,000 New Zealand dollars in revenue. 9 months later, we were doing over 2 million in revenue. And throughout that period, I don't think we had a single call. Like we were just texting on Messenger, a couple of messages once in a while. And I was like, hey, Adam, I want to triple the spend. He was like, all right.
Yeah, it was a really weird time, but it's, I had, it was actually quite good having someone on the other side of the world, different time zones, who you didn't get trapped in endless meetings with. You know, you can waste a lot of time just meeting with people and talking. So we had to have our communications really concise, and they were only happening sort of like at either ends of the day. So you kind of couldn't fuck around with like just random stuff.
Hey bro, what's up?
Wasting time. It was like ding, 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 ding. And also the trust comes into it. So I just trusted him massively. He didn't really need to ask for too much permissions. I didn't need to ask much from him. We were just going about, he was marketing it and scaling it, and I was just dealing with the fallout. Growing, you know, the customer support, getting the logistics sorted out, the metals, our suppliers. So that was in late 2019. We met and started growing it. And then we had New Year's, which was like a huge selling time for us because, you know, New Year, New You kind of fitness is big. It also comes after a huge run into Christmas with Q4 marketing spending, which all ends at Christmas, and everyone goes on holiday. So the sort of playing field for ads is really really good around then. We did a huge New Year's, our first New Year's together. We really sold heaps of challenges, and it was really exciting. And then COVID happened, and it didn't happen to the world. It happened to China, and no one really around the world knew what COVID was in those early days. They'd maybe heard about it, and it was this thing that was happening in China. And our medals are made in China. And so we sell challenges before we actually have the medals, because we've got a time between when a person starts a challenge and when they finish it, and then when we need to send them their medal. So we can kind of order our medals as we require them with a sort of 2-3 week turnaround. But what happened was China shut down and we couldn't get our medals. So we just had thousands of new customers who were just finishing their challenges, and we couldn't give them their medal. And we had to tell them it was because of this virus that was in China, which to the average American is not a good enough excuse or reason. And so to begin with, because COVID was pretty good for our industry and pretty good for our company, but to begin with, COVID was an absolute nightmare because everything was shut. We couldn't get medals, and no one would believe us as to the reason why. They just thought we were scammers, you know. So all our reviews, people were like, oh, scammers, they don't even have the medals.
Yeah, well, what is your message there? Because they've paid for a service and they're not getting it.
Yeah.
So you just say it's coming, just be patient.
We had a huge win out of all of that. We a huge lesson as well, and a good lesson for everyone is when you have shit go wrong, you front foot it as quickly as you can and as thoroughly as you can, and you just communicate as often as you can to people, and they will mostly be really reasonable about it. It's if you let them discover the problem, and that's when they can get pissed off. So we had people who didn't know that they weren't going to get a medal, and we hit them all up, every customer, and said, this is what we're facing, this is the problem, and it's likely that you're not going to be able to get your medal, you know, soon after. We'll definitely get it to you, and if you want a refund, we're willing to give you one. And we thought we were going to get slaughtered with refunds, but we hardly had any. And actually the negative people were a very small percentage of people were negative. But if we just let it fall over and just, you know, people are like, where the hell's my medal? And then we came up with this, you know, COVID reason, I think people would have hated us. So we've actually taken that lesson right through, because we've had heaps of things go wrong, tech, all manner of things, been hacked, all this sort of stuff. And if you front foot it and you be honest and give people options, then most people are really happy just to support you and you know, just wait.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened.
So you get past that initial COVID roadblock, and then it seems like perfect, right? Because no one can hang out. Everyone wants to do these fitness challenges. They've got their phone. They can go out.
Yeah, it was sort of unbelievable timing. I don't really want to paint COVID as a positive thing because it was so hard for so many people. But it definitely made people, that people couldn't do in-person events. People couldn't go to the gym. All people could do was go for a walk. And so, and be inside. And so if you're inside, you're on your phone, and there we are. And so many people found us out of COVID, and we did we had a pretty solid year. We grew from 2 million to 40 million. In a year, which was
pretty good one, eh?
It's solid in anyone's.
I think that's all right.
Yeah. And then
fuck.
Yeah. And so we were a bit worried that we were going to be a COVID spike. You know, we knew that we had grown quickly before COVID, so it gave us a lot of confidence that we were on the right path no matter what. But we did get a huge spike in COVID, and we were concerned that it was going to die away. And it did sort of die away. But then we grew massively from there as well. So, and we went, it's good to be just not a flash in the pan from COVID.
You threw something kind of as a throwaway line just before, which is something that always kind of buzzes around online businesses, but it's like cyber attack. And is all of your information digitally there? Like what are your guardrails for that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so it turns out that security and privacy are pretty important.
As it turns out.
And to be honest, we do a really good job of being compliant in both security and privacy. Now that we've got sort of proper people and processes in place, and we've grown really quickly, but we've also brought on expertise and staff and things like that. So we're in a really good place with it. We did have a bit of a cyber attack, if you want me to tell you the story about what happened there. So I can't remember when it was, but it was quite a few years ago. And Andrew, who's the lead web developer, and he's the guy who originally actually built the very first line of code. He still works for the company. He's our CTO. And in the middle of the night, we had this person try and run like a cyber attack on us, and Andrew got up in the middle of the night to the news. I get a phone call. We're under attack. And
was it as dramatic as that?
Yeah.
Who's called?
I don't know who made the call, but he said he got a phone call. So you can imagine him in the middle of the night. He gets up, he puts his cape on, and he just goes to work, and he's like literally battling this attacker live on trying to do all this. Attacker's trying to do all the stuff, and Andrew's trying to block him from doing it.
Genuinely,
And so what this attacker was doing, right, is they'd found out that they created mass number of accounts. They created 500 accounts, and they then worked out a way using our URL parameters, the bit in the top that you type in, that they could access all of these, all of our challenges, because they were numbered numerically. And so, challenge number 1, challenge 352 and 353, and they could find those pages, which is, you couldn't really find those pages anywhere else on the site. But if you just change the URL to a different number, then you'd end up at a different challenge page. And that's where people are participating in the challenge, because it is also on the web as well as an app. And so this hacker signed up, and they, there's first name and last name and stuff like that. And so they put their first name as come fuck me, and their last name as @pofuck.com, right? And then they went around to all of these challenges, the challenge pages, and they liked, everyone's activities in their newsfeed. And so we had just onboarded a Catholic girls' school as a group. They wanted to do a group challenge. Yeah. And all of these girls were, quite new to the platform. They'd been on it for 3 days, and they were really, the teachers were super sensitive around, privacy and because they're going to be posting pictures of themselves exercising. And we're like, no, it's only there. People can't find the page. And so when this guy went around with all of these things and liked all of these posts, when you get a like on something, you also get a notification. Yeah. So these Catholic schoolgirls were getting a notification that said, come fuck me @pofuck.com liked your activity.
Yeah, it's not a good look for you, but it's not a good look for your business.
It was not good, It's like, and every one of our corporate wellness clients also got that as well. Yeah. So it was a real low point in our journey, and it taught us a big lesson. We fixed all of that up, but
do you think someone just randomly targeted you? Wonder why?
I don't know what the end game was.
No.
I don't know what the end game was.
Yeah, as you're telling the story, I'm thinking, who's sitting there going, you know what I'm going to do today?
Go off to the Conqueror.
I don't know.
Because you're all over their Facebook feed, probably.
Maybe. You bastard. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the end game was, whether it was to try and get us in a position where we had to pay them, or just to piss us off and someone's just doing it for fun or whatever. But it was a pretty bad time. And Bree, my partner, she was working in the corporate wellness side of the company at the time, so she was dealing with it all, and so she had to kind of front foot all of that fallout. And we just took the same approach to it, and we were just honest and communicated a lot, and we apologized and offered them a refund. And the guy just about lost his job. The guy who was the teacher who was organising it all, he just about lost his job. But then everyone just came around to it and were satisfied with what we'd done to remedy it, and our response to it all, and they actually forgave us, which I guess is with their nature. Thankfully, and they ended up doing another challenge with us as well, and they loved it. So it was kind of weird, to go through that from start to finish.
it's such a contrast to the community you've built up online, which I've heard it was described as like the kindest place on the internet.
Yeah.
And your numbers are huge, right? Like your Facebook community has about 400,000 people in it. Can you tell us about the importance of that? Was that always in mind when you started, that you needed to get a community built?
I think that's one of the things that you hear, and at the time with social media, there was buzzwords around community, build a community, and things like that. And so I did intentionally want to build a community, but I didn't intentionally think it was going to work out the way that it did. And so here's what happened with the community. We started it because I felt like I should start it, and it's just a place where if you sign up for a challenge, then you get access to this private Facebook group, and you can post your progress and things like that. And what I started noticing in the group was that it was a really positive place to be, and there was so many people telling their stories and posting their pictures. And you know how on the internet it's negativity always triumphs over positivity. And so there's all these dickheads in there as well going, just being negative. And I was like, I was just kicking them out. I was like, no, we're just going to create like a super race of positive people. And just by turfing out people who were trolls or just being really negative towards others. And so, so what ended up happening was we just created a place where it was really positive. And then what happened was that people started to feel safe there. So they'd post, more sensitive content, and they'd open up and they'd always be met with positivity. So we kind of grew, and then it just self-governs. And so the whole group just doesn't tolerate negativity towards others. And it just took on a life of its own. We've got amazing moderators and community leaders who run that now. But it sort of all started from just not tolerating negativity. It's like, this is my space. I'm not going to let you just come in here and troll away others who are struggling away with their life, this place just blew up, and it's still it's hard to, 400,000 people. It's hard to, continue to be, always just positive, but yeah, we've definitely a pretty special place. We like to consider it as the most positive place on the internet.
Did because you got about 500,000 on Instagram as well, like, did that all just come in through COVID? Like, was there a big explosion in America or something? Or how did you get so many followers so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, just from our growth of sales, people sign up and then they join like our Facebook page or Instagram or join our community. That's pretty much. We also licensed things like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, and things like that. And so you get just big boosts of numbers when reaching different audiences through those different types of products.
How do you go about licensing those massive franchises?
Yeah, well, it turns out you just email them and ask them.
Really?
Yeah. So I kind of just woke up. I had this idea, like, I reckon we should do a Lord of the Rings challenge. So how do you license Lord of the Rings? So just go to Google and go, how to license Lord of the Rings. And I get to a website and it says, we actually said, if you want to license the rights to the movies, you email, it was like info@Warner Brothers. And if you want to license the rights to the books, you email this other one. It was like LOTR I don't know. It was in Middle Earth Enterprises or something. It wasn't PoFuck. You can license something else there. And so I knew that emailing info@Warner Brothers was going to get me nowhere, So I actually deliberately emailed the wrong place. So I emailed the place that does the licensing for the books because I thought I'll probably get a response from them. And so I emailed and sent this pitch and they came back and they said next day, and he said, it sounds like you want to license the rights to the movies, not the books. Here's the email address, and it was info@Warner Brothers or something real generic. And so I messaged him back and I said, hey, could you give us like a contact maybe in sort of Asia Pacific that I could,
a person, basically.
Yeah. And so he came back and gave me this guy Tommy's email, who's in Australia. And I emailed Tommy the pitch, which was just like a 5-page PDF document with a bit of info about the company and what we wanted to do with them. And within 15 minutes, he responded and he said, "This is awesome. Let's get on a call." Half an hour later, we're on a call and we've pretty much said we're going to do it. And then from there, lawyers got involved and there's negotiations and license agreements and all that. But I think the kind of lesson is that you're never far away from you're not that far away from something big that can change the course of your business, like one email, a conversation, going for a walk, thinking of an idea. These can all just happen like any day of the week. You're not really that far away from it. I think a lot of people think they're super far away from success.
How did you know that? Was it just accumulated knowledge that you needed to actually get a person to pitch that idea to?
Yeah, I think so. I think just business experience. If you just put an email out into to a generic email address, you're probably not going to find the right people. I wanted to speak with someone, local, and I wanted to try and actually just take a different path in. It was funny because I think last year or the year before, our general manager, Carol, she was in Las Vegas at a licensing expo, and she had a bit of time to spare, so she went to like a presentation on, how to get into licensing when you're new. And so she was in this room, and the presenter was saying, well, what you should never do is just try and get the big ones straight away. Don't try and license Disney stuff. Don't try and license Warner stuff. You got to start small. You've got to prove your model. You've got to prove that you're a good licensee. You can't just jump into the big time. No one just jumps in from nothing to. And I was like, wow, lucky I didn't go to that seminar because it was pretty. We pretty much just jumped straight in, and we did Lord of the Rings, which was amazing. It was almost doubled our.
And once you tip one of those dominoes on a big franchise like that, is it a case of the rest just fall?
The rest just fall.
Because Star Wars, I'm looking at Star Wars in front of me, and like that. Was that any different to Lord of the Rings?
They all just one just led to another, which led to another. Yeah, we did a bunch of stuff with Warner, and then we approached Disney, and we did Star Wars with Disney. Then we've got Harry Potter, which we just launched recently as well, which was really successful. But it just, I think we're a really good company to deal with. We've got great people. Great team of people, and I think the world loves Kiwis as well, something that Kiwi businesses should try and embrace more. If you're going to go global, you're already at an advantage. You might see it as a disadvantage because we're so isolated, but everyone loves Kiwis. So, if you're a good company to deal with, and you kind of get back to people, and you adhere to their guidelines and things like that, then word gets around that, for us, word gets around that we're pretty slick operation in terms of adhering to their requirements, and that's what they want.
There's 2 points I want to get to, and you can tackle them in what order because I'm not sure of the timelines, but they both speak to sort of the explosion and growth in the company. And one is sort of refounding the company and Raoul becoming an equal partner, and how you decided on that. And the other one is this story that he's asked you to tell about the credit card situation where things were growing so fast that you kind of had to get about 1 million credit cards.
So Raoul was working originally just as a contractor, I guess a marketing agency, and he was doing amazing work, and things were just going so well. We were growing really quickly, and I think a little bit of resentment probably built up that he was doing all of this work. He knew that I'd created the product, and that was important as well, but he was doing all this marketing work, and that was what was moving the needle. And so I think he got to a point where it just wasn't really working out for him. It wasn't really within his best interests anymore, and I don't think he wanted to just be paid more. But he didn't ask if he could join the company. And so we were looking at a scenario where he was going to step away and I was going to just go off on my own, and I was looking at that going, man, I don't really want that either. So I just I said to him, hey man, just here's half the company, and we'll be co-founders, and we refound the company together. And I consider him a co-founder. I don't think he considers himself one, but I do. And we kind of just went from there as business partners. So we ended up being 50-50.
That is a huge call, right? That is worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. Was it an overnight thing? Like, did you spend much time thinking about that, or was it just the right thing to, in your gut, you knew it was the right thing to do?
I definitely knew it was the right thing to do. It was the best decision I've ever made. I've never made a more impactful decision. It just felt right. I wanted him to be my business partner, and I didn't want to lose him. And I knew we could continue to do cool shit together. So, he just became a half owner in the company. I think that kind of blew him away a bit as well.
Have you physically met him by this stage?
Nah.
Genuinely? Really?
No, we didn't meet each other. No.
Not pressed the flesh, not shook hands, or it's... No. Are you joking, or are you legit?
I have since, but at that point, no. Yeah.
Wow, that is some high trust.
Yeah, they come out to New Zealand Raoul and a bunch of his team came out to New Zealand a few years ago, and that's when we first met in Christchurch, and we did a tour of the South Island together, which was awesome. It was weird because he was way shorter than I thought he'd be. You know what it's like when you meet someone?
Yeah. Holy hell.
Yeah. So is the credit card thing after this?
Yeah. So then in our second New Year's, I think it's 2021, 2022 New Year's, so the one after COVID, we were approaching this New Year's period, and we knew that, you know, this is a really good selling time for us, and we wanted to maximise it. And so we had an ad account, and we were capping out the amount we could spend on an ad account. So we had to like go and get 20 ad accounts set up. So he went and set up 20 ad accounts, Facebook ad accounts, and then we had to get credit cards. So I ordered like 25 credit cards from the bank. They were like, "What? These guys are in debt massively. Like, what's this business is falling over? They want 25 credit cards. How many staff have you got?" I was like, well, 2. You know,
was it just you? The 2 of you?
Oh, there was a few, probably like 4 or 5 of us at the time. And so we got all these credit cards and loaded them up to our Facebook ad accounts, and then we were like, you know, hitting the go button, and we're spending so much on Facebook ads. And we didn't realize that with a new ad account, when you reach a billing threshold, they charge your card. And a new ad account has a really low billing threshold, like $2 is where it starts at. So for every $2 in ad spend, we were getting a transaction on our card. And so we were having like tens of thousands of transactions just happening all the time. And the bank was just freaking out, thinking that all our cards were being, you know, had been stolen and been used all over the place. And so they had the fraud team ringing me constantly, just 24/7, just asking me, is this you guys? We need to check all the merchant IDs and like, you know, just give them approval. Just keep going. I'm like, oh, it's fine, Agnes. No, we're just trying to spend 250 grand today on ads. A guy in Romania is doing it. Yeah, no, it's all good. You know, she's just going, what the hell? But yeah, it was a chaotic time, for sure. And I look back at that time, probably the most hectic time as well. Just so much volume of everything happening and just craziness.
Does your relationship with money change? You talk about $250,000 a day in ads. Like, this is so far removed from where you were a few years ago. Like, how does it change your approach to money?
Yeah, it's a really, really bizarre thing to be, you know, I guess, you know, I was a maximum working for families tax credits, and tried to buy a house and I couldn't even afford a $150,000 house, you know, when marriage broke up and I went out. And, you know, to go from that to speaking about these sort of massive numbers is just so bizarre. And it's something that I've just like really struggled to kind of wrap my head around how I can, you know, this can be happening and how big these numbers are and just how used to it I've become. And then stepping back a bit and going, that's just so weird, you know, like $250,000 a day on ads is just crazy, you know.
Not when you look at my feed.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah, and and then I think of like companies that have 5,000 employees and turn over billions of dollars, and you're like, man, their bloody ad spends and just revenue coming in is mind-boggling. I don't understand how people have, you know, hundreds or thousands of staff. It just, you know, I just don't understand how they get to that point.
So how did your headcount start to increase as the company got more successful?
Yeah, so we grew. We were really lean for a long time, and you know, quite a lot of heroes, you know, in the company that are just doing lots of different work, putting on different hats. Just getting stuck in, you know, managing areas, doing things outside of their comfort zones, doing things outside of their skill sets. And then we mature and then we start to bring in sort of more, you know, expertise and then have management. And then that's sort of when I sort of wanted to step away because, you know, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not a manager. And a lot of entrepreneurs come with management skills. A lot of entrepreneurs come with leadership skills. A lot of, you know, entrepreneurs come with all of these additional skills, but I didn't really have many or any of those. And the business just started becoming too complex, and I just ended up dealing with all of the shit problems that no one else could. So yeah, tax, GDPR, privacy, just all the stuff. Then your staff grievances, you know, all the sort of stuff. And I was like, I'd wake up in the morning, I'm sure you guys are like this at the moment. You wake up in the morning, first thing you want to do is chit-chat, open your laptop, see what's happened, and, get stuck into work. Whereas I was like that, but then I turned into getting up in the morning. The last thing I wanted to do was open my laptop. I'd open it at 10 o'clock and I would just be like, oh, I was known around the office as the sire because I would just be like constantly going, and that's where I was like, oh, I'm not enjoying this anymore because my skills are not valued in the company anymore, and that's just a good, honest look at, my skills and what I'd brought to the company and what I was giving to the company at that time. And I was just, surplus to requirements. So,
that's an interesting reality check.
Yeah.
To go through from ideation and being hands-on, doing absolutely everything to the point of the realization of being like, I'm not the guy anymore.
Yeah. I'm actually hindering the company, like poor leadership, disorganization is a real hindrance to a company, especially if you're leading it. So it's definitely being honest with yourself. And I'm not embarrassed about that either. Like I'm happy that, I could reach that decision by myself. Like no one had to push me out either. And it was good to step away, and it was good to, Raoul, we said, should we hire a CEO? And he was keen to take over as CEO. So I was keen for him to do that as well. And so that's what we did. And now he's the CEO. So, if you look at his story, he's gone from wanting to, working at an agency to wanting to start his own agency to, joining this New Zealander and blowing up a company and then becoming the CEO.
And you're a multinational as well, right? You've got Raoul in Romania.
Yep.
You've got parts in Nicaragua.
Yeah, so our customer service agents are all in Nicaragua and some other parts of Central America. We've got people in Singapore, the UK. Yeah.
And a nondescript building at the Mount, I'm told.
Like we don't even have a sign.
Unbranded building.
Yeah, we've just not got around to it. Yeah. I don't know why. We just haven't got around to it. And we also like to kind of fly under the radar a bit, we advertise on Facebook. That's our happy place.
Yeah. Tell us top line, if you can, where things are at. So, you went from 8K to 2 mil to 40 mil to, I think I had 75 mil a year in revenue, and then maybe it sort of plateaued. Is that kind of the numbers that you're working with at the moment?
Yeah. So we went from 100K a year to 2 million. So we 20x the company, and then we 20x'd it the next year as well. So we went from 2 to 40. Then we had a pretty stable year, somewhere in mid 40s. And then we went, to 75. I think it was actually just shy of 80. And then we went backwards a little bit. And now we're kind of pushing forwards past that with some of these other license challenges. So
pushing past 80.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some business award recognition recently as well.
Yeah. It was the first time, like, I think our general manager was like, oh, come on guys, you've got to try and do something here. We've done pretty well. We should probably enter like a business award. So we entered, it was the NZTE International Business Awards, and we ended up winning, it was the Growth in Online Sales award. So yeah, that was cool. It was a good bit of recognition. And
were the judges like, who the fuck are these guys, and where the fuck have they been this whole time?
Probably. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. We the discussions after that were pretty great. I don't think half people believed it. So, but
Yeah.
How, I know, not the elevator pitch, but what has been the magic of why it has grown to the place it is? Is it the vision of the quest? Is it the medals? Is it the support that you've given in the communities? Is it just a combination? Is there one thing that's
it's definitely a combination. I think the product actually is pretty good. It helps people, and it helps people with a big problem, and that problem exists for like almost everyone. Everyone wants to move more. Everyone knows that exercise is important. It's important for your physical health and your mental health. So we're sort of solving a really, really big global problem. So the product's really good. The business model is epic. So we make a sale, then we don't have any cost associated with that sale for potentially up to 2 years. So your kind of cash flow position is really amazing. So compared to like a normal business, we normally would have, you make a sale, you send it the next day, you've got to have the product in stock. So we don't have to have the product in stock. We carry like millions and millions of medals at any one time, but we don't have enough medals for everyone. for in the future. So this business model was really, really favourable.
You carry millions of medals.
Yeah,
in
a warehouse.
Okay. Carry on.
There's boxes of them, crates of them. So, and so there's a really good, strong business model, which wasn't really by design. It just sort of happened to be that's how our business worked. So good idea, good business model, and then the technology is like it's pretty good. I wouldn't say that's our whiz thing. The tech is just the platform that we deliver the challenge on, but we've advanced that like pretty significantly now. So the barrier to entry is pretty high now. Over COVID, I think we had like 30 competitors just pop up, but they didn't have the tech. You can't really get the tech quickly, and it's very, very expensive. So there's some barriers to entry, which gives it a bit of a moat, which is also pretty good. But I think you combine that with the world best in class marketing, and that's what's kind of really driven the customer acquisition.
Yeah, it's epic, man. I'm looking forward to getting into some of these sort of tips, but before we do, I want to bring in Bree, because Bree is a friend of mine. I know her from sort of back in the day, but I asked her about like what stage of the journey was Adam on when you guys first met. And she's like, we went out on this first date and he was telling me about some app that he'd built, and automatically I was thinking red flag, what the fuck is this? Who is this guy? But I want to bring her in because, whenever you talk to successful people, it's the stability behind and the influence that they have, which really helps you succeed. But like for her to go through the journey with you too, of a guy who had been struggling with this thing and to see where you're at now, like that, what a ride for her to be on with you.
Yeah, totally. Like we met when we were probably, when I was at my probably lowest point in terms of this, the business. I think she must have just been thinking, like, what is the product? Because it is hard to explain. And what's this guy doing in his bloody garage, packaging these things up and then asking, me to help him throw them into mailboxes around town. She's been there to see the crazy growth, and I guess has been, very obviously the closest person to me to sort of see that and go through that with me. She's a bit of an entrepreneur herself, so we have a pretty common interest in business, and I help her out with heaps of entrepreneur stuff, and she's been a great sounding board and a great help, and then she also dropped everything she was doing and worked in the business when we needed help because of COVID. We had so many inquiries of corporate wellness people wanting to do fitness challenges for their staff over that COVID period. So she picked all of that up and just kind of went through the bizarreness. And I remember sitting in our camper van in her parents' driveway in Whangamata one kind of New Year's Eve period, and we're just both on our laptops just slamming out customer support because we had to all pile into customer support. And it's the middle of the night, and then we had to get up the next morning and just kind of act cool around her parents, and they're looking at us, it was a good night, yeah.
But you've got like high school mates working on the business as well. Like, how cool is that to have people that you genuinely get on with sharing in the success?
Yeah, we've had an amazing team of. I actually also have a girl who I used to teach at Katikati College. She works for the company as well, so. Got some mates, and we were just this ragtag bunch of guys working out of a first office was a airport hangar, which the ceiling came down on the side of the room. You couldn't even stand in it, and we'd have interviews for staff and things like that. And but it's been awesome journey. It's not been easy, like I've actually lost like a really good friend out of this as well, who was working for the company, and the relationship just didn't work out as the business grew and matured, and so that was real stink, You start to sort of see the human side of having to progress your business. But yeah, those early days were pretty cool.
All right, I'm really excited to tuck into this now that we've got sort of the story told, and you can sort of reference back to any parts of the journey you want. But one of the subheads you sent through is position yourself to get lucky, and you talked about the significant factor that luck has played in the success of the Conqueror, and you've given 3 examples that I want to work through. One is the original quote to build the app was way underquoted, and if the guy Andrew, who I know has been a really important part of this journey, had given you the real price, you probably wouldn't have done it. None of this would have happened.
Yeah, none of it would have happened. It would have been too expensive, and I just would have gone, no, I'll do something else. So just got lucky there, and there's so many instances of just getting lucky, and you can kind of look at luck and go, guy just got lucky. We got lucky with COVID. It's horrible to say that in the face of what went down for most people, but that was in the scope of the context of our business was a lucky break. But COVID wouldn't have been lucky for us if we didn't have an app. So I was in the position to get lucky from a whole range of different angles, lucky just messaging people and getting responses from them in the right timings. But none of that luck happens if you're not in the position to get lucky. I think, sitting around waiting to win lotto is the only way most people can get lucky in order to get money, And so I just put myself in position as often as I can for luck to fall my way, because just random coincidence will mean that you will end up with some lucky things happen if you're there to be lucky.
The other one you had is when you're at your lowest, a huge multinational agency hit you up out of the blue asking you to quote a custom virtual challenge job, which kind of, again, pulled you through.
Yeah, so that was at a time when I was working on trying to figure out how to grow the Conqueror, because it had launched but not really done very well. And the corporate wellness side of things was ticking over, and I had this massive global agency. I didn't actually know who they were. They came in and they wanted this customized virtual challenge platform. And I've had so many of these come in over the years, and it's like, we want this, we want that. And there's quite a big process involved in quoting the job. And I couldn't be bothered quoting it. And I didn't want to waste Andrew's time as well. He was working on other stuff, and I didn't want him to switch to quoting this job. So I kind of wanted this agency just to go away. And I actually pretty much said, we can't do this. And then they came back and said, could you just please put together a quote? And so I was like, I'll give you a quote. So I gave them this Hail Mary quote. It was so ridiculous. And they just came back saying, we'd like to go ahead. I was like, what? Yeah. What the hell? And we delivered the work. It was a really good project. We actually did really, really well. And they were happy. We got paid and kept the servers running for a few extra months. Yeah. So it's just bizarre, just comes walking in through the door.
Just looping back as well to dealing with multinationals, and I can't take my eyes off the medals that are on the table with these big franchises. But then do you, because I'm a Star Wars nerd and a bit of a Game of Thrones nerd as well.
Yep. When
you get end users starting the challenges, how much into the weeds do people get about, no, Endor is closer to the desert planet of Tatooine versus Hoth, and you guys are wrong. Do people get into that?
That is getting into the weeds. Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
Massively. So with Lord of the Rings, we were super conscious about that. And so we actually ended up hiring a Lord of the Rings expert who was pretty much full-time advising us on what we needed to do to not fuck it up.
Yeah.
Again, we also had to translate. So with Lord of the Rings, we had to translate the journey from the Shire to Mount Doom. We had to translate that into a distance. And there are various...
and as everyone knows, if they just got on the Eagles at the start and flown there, they would have saved the whole, the movie.
Extra $50 and you can get an virtual Eagle. You miss out on the fitness, but so there was a lot of that, a lot of research, a lot of exactly what you just said before around this star that closer here, there. This is the stories, and there's that's what makes, I guess, the universes quite cool, is that people can really get into them deeply. And that was what our theory was, there's so many deep fans for these titles, especially Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, that if we can create a product around those franchises, then we're opening ourselves up to a whole new audience. So, yeah, that's pretty much what's happened.
Okay, I've got 7 business lessons to finish us off. I'm going to just give the top line, give as much or as little as you want, but these are really good. So, number 1, you're usually way closer to success than you feel like you are.
Yeah, I think that's going back to this, it can just come from an email, to email the right person at the right time. Things can just change. It might not be something that blows your company up, but it might just put you on a different pathway, or introduce you to something else. It could be that you go for a walk and you just think of a new idea that changes how you approach something. And you've got to be open to that. So if you're negative and thinking that you're so far away from success, then that'll just probably be true. But if you're open to the idea that tomorrow you could be on the path to like a really successful business, even just the start of that path, then you're more likely to see it when it comes.
And that kind of bleeds into number 2, which is keep the faith in your product idea, but always be totally honest about how good or bad your product is.
Yep. I get a lot of people come to me with their ideas for all sorts of businesses, and sometimes really good products don't make good businesses. The unit economics just don't work. People just aren't willing to pay the amount that you need them to pay to actually, to make money out of the product. So that one, you got to be honest about. It might be a good product, but it might not be a good business. The same with the product, especially ideas for apps. So they can often look really good in your head, and you can think how amazing they'd be for the world. But when you get them in reality, are they really solving a problem? Is it actually something that people want, or is it a bit of fluff content that they don't, doesn't actually really solve a problem? And so you've got to re-examine that, I think, a lot, and be honest and brutal, and don't listen to the people who like you, because they're going to tell you that it's great because they don't want to offend you, So just trying to be, constantly re-examining that. And I think from my point of view, if you really do have that strong conviction and belief in the product, then you got to keep going.
That lends itself to number 3, which is be super aware of your cognitive bias towards things that support your existing opinion on something while rejecting information that goes against it.
Yeah. So everyone does this. It's so hard to not, in every aspect of your life, on all your opinions on everything, politics, etc., is that, you're so much more open to things that support something you already believe in. And that's super dangerous, especially in business, because if you just hear, reaffirming things and ignore the other things because they don't support your idea, say that your product's good, or, that you're doing things a certain way and that's a good way to do them. If you're ignoring the negative signals, then I think you can go down a bit of a rabbit hole and be in a bit of a trap, and then just be delusional.
I'm interested in this next one because, we've been chatting nearly 90 minutes, and you're an incredibly competent, go-getting problem solver. But you've put, if I can do it in 20 years, then the average person can probably do it in 5 to 10. What do you mean?
I think, I mean, I don't really see myself as being like super clever or smart. I'm not very organized. And it's simply just a matter of pointing in the direction you want to go. So, if you want to be somewhere, you've got to head in that direction. And I think so many people just aren't really heading in that direction. They're heading in an almost opposite direction. And so 20 years is a long time to become successful, to become an overnight success, And I think it doesn't need that amount of time. Like, you don't need to go, oh, look at that guy. Well, I haven't got 20 years to get there. And that's true. I don't think you don't need 20 years. You probably don't need 10. I think the average person, if they point themselves in the right direction and work towards it, can probably do it in much less than that. And there's heaps of examples of that as well.
Success and wealth is preferable to not having wealth, but that's all it is. You still have similar struggles because your baseline moves.
Yeah, and that's definitely a realization that I've come to experience, is that everyone's wanting to increase their wealth, and I think a lot of people think, including me, that it's going to fix all your problems and your life's going to be really easy and sweet. And I think having a certain level of wealth is definitely preferable to not having it. There's no doubt about that. But you still face pretty similar struggles. It's like, it's still hard to go to the gym. It's still hard to eat healthy. You still have, normal relationship stuff. Your life just continues as it is normal and almost for everyone. You get to do some new things, and the shifting baselines is, well, you just get too used to it. And I guess an example of that is, like, I used to go on a surf trip like every 5 years, and now I go on one every, like maybe 2 a year. And if I don't get to go on 2 a year, then I'm as pissed off as if I didn't get to go on, one every 5 years. Like, it's the same feeling. So your baselines shift, and you've got to be aware of that. And I think, you've got to just try and be actually just grateful for what you do have, and rather than focusing on what you don't have,
We've kind of covered this one a little bit, but there might be a new angle on it. Having an idea for an app is only a tiny part of what you need. Creating an app is creating a tech business, and there's no escaping that.
Yeah, and that's just, you know, you're not in the industry of your app. You're in tech industry, and a lot of people, with their ideas for an app, they want to really focus on the idea and talk about how good the idea is. And I'm not a good judge of anyone's idea. You know, like it could be a good idea, it could be a shit idea. I don't know, but you know, they have to realize that if you want to do an app, you have to accept that you're also starting a tech company, and that involves being able to speak the language, to engage with tech people, have the budget, and be prepared for it. Otherwise, because it's not all, it's not about just talking about the future and the vision for the app. It's about getting into the weeds and having to figure out some pretty complex stuff from a tech point of view.
Love it. And last one, if you build it, they won't come. You need to have a very clear path to customer acquisition and be real about how much it is going to cost to acquire a customer.
Yep. So, that's a huge lesson from my point of view. Is I just built this thing and thought, people start using it, then more people start using it. There's a real confusion between distribution and marketing, I think, for a lot of people, is that you think an app, it can be live and global in, minutes after you publish it to the store, and that there's billions of people on the store available, and they could download your app and, it'll be successful. But it just doesn't work like that. That's distribution, but people need to find your app, and the only way you can really do that is to promote it somehow. And there's a cost to promoting it. So you have to know what your cost to acquire a customer is. And in our case, the cost to acquire our customer is actually higher than the customer's first purchase. So we spend more to acquire the customer than what they pay us. Really? But we have so much data that we know that our average customer purchases, a certain number of challenges. So our lifetime value is higher. But you need to know that. And at the start, when you're trying to acquire customers and you see that the cost is higher than the sale price, it's a terrible metric to be staring in your face. Like, we're losing money. Every time we get a customer, we're losing money. And so you need a bit of faith that, or you need a business model, and you need to know that your numbers are gonna, your lifetime value of your client or your customer is gonna sustain your business. Otherwise, you're not gonna have a business.
Told you the end was going to be good, eh?
Yeah,
these are hot, man. I am going to start wrapping us up, but I want to reflect on, so what was the time frame since you've stepped away from CEO and sort of lesser with the company?
Yeah, so March 2023. So a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
And so where are you at? I know you kind of, I think Bree might have joked that he's got an idea for an app, but are you at the point where you're starting to think about what's next, or what is your mindset?
Yeah, definitely. I'm open to thinking about what's next for sure. It's a very weird space to be in, but yeah, I'm not sure what I'll get into. I'd like to get into something maybe with, the Conqueror is amazing because it helps people, and I think I've got a real kick out of the fact that it's actually a good product that helps people. So I think that's important for me. I want to do something that's useful.
That's got to be the driver at this point, right? Like, we've spoken about the company's making $80 million a year. Money is not it's got to serve more of a purpose for you to. It is a weird place to be in, because it's like, well, why should I do anything?
Yeah, I'm actually enjoying my time off. I wanted to give myself 3 months to decide what I was going to do next. So it's turned into 18 months. And people told me I'd get depressed and be really bored, but to be honest, I've kind of enjoyed it. It's been weird, but it's been enjoyable, and it's nice not having any pressure to have to move into the next thing, and whatever the next thing is. I don't probably want to start something from scratch. I don't think. Probably like to join in with someone. We've got a bunch of plans within the company as well that to expand the company into maybe doing different product lines and even entirely new businesses. So that's pretty exciting. And I'm still involved in the company, not day to day, but from a kind of, just complain about things if I see it.
Is that where the Conqueror Adventures kind of fits in as well?
Yeah, so the Conqueror Adventures, so the guy who runs that, Phil, is a good friend of mine. he's had a career in running tours, outbound tours and inbound tours from into New Zealand and then out to other parts of the world. And then, during COVID was a pretty tough time for his industry. So we teamed up and we were like, well, we've got a whole bunch of conquerors who've virtually been to these locations. So let's do some tours, some real life tours to some of our virtual locations. And then see if some people from the Conqueror want to come along and actually visit those places. So a really cool story would be, we talked about like our ideal customer. It's like someone who was maybe a little bit overweight and they took on, say, the Inca Trail Virtual Challenge. It's the first time they've ever done any exercise and they do it at home on their treadmill and then they get their medal and they're really stoked and, they've turned their life around and for the positive and they've attributed the success to, partly to the Conqueror. And then they also go and do the real Inca Trail with the Conqueror Adventures and they get to complete the real Inca Trail because they've built up the stamina to be able to do it, and it kind of completes the circle from virtual to real. So that's how the Conqueror Adventures was born, and it's a pretty small operation, but we definitely, Phil runs tours into New Zealand, but also all around the world to those other locations. So it's pretty cool little story.
This whole thing is pretty cool. So I can't believe that you haven't told it before, right? This is kind of like we spoke before we started about how it might end up being quite therapeutic and reflecting on everything is kind of a cool space. How has it been talking through it all?
Yeah, it's good. It is. I've been. I don't know why I've been reluctant to talk. I don't know if it's been reluctance. I think it's more just not really got around to it and not really had the opportunity to. So. Voicing it out loud, because you talk to, you hear it in your head, but voicing it out loud makes it sound pretty crazy as well. So, but yeah, no, it's been therapeutic. Send me the invoice.
It is like I was super excited. I had obviously majority of people I would suggest listening to this had no idea. Mm-hmm. And then in researching it, just became incredibly excited about hearing it firsthand. Does it like? Do you bump into people at restaurants or bars around the world, and they go, "Oh, what do you do?" And then you kind of launch into a variation of the story.
I try and avoid that at all costs. But what do you do? I don't think I've ever bumped into just a random person who's also been a Conqueror.
Really?
So we've over 1 million customers, but that's not a lot of people in the world. You know what I mean? So just randomly bumping. I know lots of people who have done it, and friends of friends and things like that. But we actually a couple of years ago it was actually quite a few years ago when I was doing the deliveries still. There was an address, and it was in Papamoa, which is like where I live, and I was like, I'd really love to go around and hand deliver this, knock on their door and be like, hey, here's your medal. Because they would have thought they were buying from an American company for sure. It's like, that's a bit creepy.
You should have done it.
You did it? Creepy. No, I didn't do it.
What, is there an upper limit? Like, do you know the oldest person that's ever done a challenge?
Oh, well into their 90s. So we have a personality in our Facebook group called ROK Jane, and she is like mid-90s, and she does her son does the posting on the Facebook page, but she's there with her medal and sends a bit of a message to the group. And it's amazing, that group. Like, a person can post a picture of themselves holding their medal and tell a little story like ROK Jane, and 3,000 people will like it, and 500 people will comment, positive comments. And imagine that when you're 90 and you're a social media star, So it's pretty cool. And that happens daily in our group. People just get massive support and encouragement. And that has actually become part of the product as well, is that you sign up for this thing, you do the challenge, you get the medal, you get the postcards, you get the content, you do the trees and the bottles, and you join this group, and the group cheers you on, and it's strangers, from all around the world.
It's so cool creating something which has that. It helps people, you could have created an app and it's kind of like it does really well, but the fact that it actually gets people out exercising and it builds community, it's so good.
It's definitely a pretty feel good product, and I think I've learned that that's something that I need. It's nice to work on a product like that because. And we actually attract staff who want to work in, more meaningful industries. So we've had, staff who've come from Kiwi fruit and, Kiwi fruit tech And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not very much, purpose driven to be trying to, get a bit more efficiency out of growing kiwi fruit.
Yeah.
So we kind of tend to attract staff that appeal, that social appeal is there. And then we, try and behave well as corporate citizens as well. And we've, we raised, I think it was over $700,000 for the Ukraine humanitarian crisis that occurred at the start of the invasion.
Yeah.
And that was just our community. We put together a challenge in like 2 days, and our community responded by entering it, and we donated everything to Save the Children and the Red Cross.
Amazing.
So get to do those feel good things as well. But all of that comes from a really good business model and actually having the free cash to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can't do it.
Whole thing's been bloody brilliant, mate. Thank you so much for coming and sharing it all with us. I've loved the whole thing, and I've learned so much from it. So yeah, thanks. Shay, anything?
Yeah, incredible insights. And I think the most inspiring thing is that you seem like just an ordinary dude that has turned this amazing thing, but so worthwhile as well. I can understand how you get personal satisfaction from creating something that is doing such good in the world as well.
Thanks, guys. No, it's been therapeutic, and I appreciate the chance to tell the story.
Last one, where can we find all this stuff if we're looking online?
Theconqueror.com.
Easy.